Why? Why does nothing work? Why does nothing work? We're starting again. I'm muting you. Welcome to the first episode of my brand new podcast show, The Nice Friend Show, the only podcast on the internet. Thank you so much for coming along and listening if you're at home. This is a live podcast that is recorded on Twitch every Thursday at twitch.tv/Paul Scott Canavan. And you can also find it on SoundCloud at another address, which I don't know. This is a podcast where I get to sit down with friends, beautiful creators, and basically just chat and hang out for a couple of hours. It's extremely chill. It's extremely nice. And today I'm joined by one of the nicest people I know. Incredible artist, Anna Hollinrake, the celestial prince of Twitter, principal artist at Mediatonic, the creators of Fall Guys, the internet sensation. Fashion icon, chosen of Slanesh, probably. Person who looks better in a suit than I ever will. So without further ado, this is our third do-over. Let me introduce you to the fabulous Anna Hollinrake. There you are. I'm so happy you did a chair spin. That was incredible.
I'm basically just wildly hyperactive now after everything that has occurred. So I'm leaning full tilt into that. So.
Just go for it. It's fucking great. It took a while to get here, but thank you so much for coming on the show about a year ago, and now we're live at last.
We got there eventually. That's all that matters.
We did finally get there.
We believe in the power of friendship, ultimately.
Oh, for goodness sake. It took a lot. It took some wine. It took some fiddling, but we're here on this incredible podcast. Why don't you tell the audience / me about yourself? Who the heck are you? Why are you here?
We just don't know. Hello. I am a concept artist, illustrator. I do game development and art direction. I work primarily in games, but I also did like some art direction in TV, in kids TV, which is just the cutest thing. I do art stuff, man. Just do a lot of art stuff. And I also do a lot of like clothes bits and pin bits, I suppose. And I just generally is swearing allowed on Nice Friend Show?
Fucking no.
Fuck.
Fuck no. Fucking no swearing. All right. Yeah, swearing is very loud. You can go nuts.
Yeah, and I just shitpost wildly on the internet. So that's me, I suppose. I like making cute stuff and not so cute stuff, more wholesome stuff. And I also like a lot of floral prints. Yeah, that's fun.
Floral prints.
Yeah. I've got one. I've got one right now. I haven't worn this in a year. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to.
That's pretty much why this podcast exists, honestly, is to give you an excuse to wear suits that you like.
Essentially. Please, just, I don't have anywhere else to wear them to. I just stand around in my room wearing them, taking photos and then just falling into like an existential sadness. So
I know that only too well, Anna. I know that only too well. Do you have your gourds? Where are your gourds at? Oh, they're on the table.
Oh my god, yeah. I have my decorative autumnal gourds. I love them. Like, they're real. And they're my favourite thing. the great thing that I think we all have to remember about this is that the intention is for it to be an audio podcast. And I am just gently raising my autumnal gourd to the camera. So you're just going to have to visualize that for yourself, listeners.
Can you describe the gourd to the listeners?
Okay, so I have 3. I have a large orange one. It's kind of striped. I could do like an ASMR experience for you.
Yeah, please.
Here we go. There you go. I'm gonna. Okay, so I've got this green one. It's yellow. It kind of almost looks pixelated. I'm tapping on the gourd for you now.
Tap the gourd.
How is that? Good. Yeah, it's gourd. It's gourd.
It's gourd. Wow. Dropping
I've got a tiny one. It's lovely. It's great. This is all because I am the Prince of Halloween, given that my birthday is on Halloween. So.
Oh yeah, I remember you said that. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for showing me these gourds. Someone in chat asked, what is the difference between a gourd and a pumpkin?
I don't know, but I feel like decorative pumpkins just feels like more Halloween focused, but decorative gourds makes it sound like, I don't know, like I've got my life together in like a kind of impressive way, which I mean, everything here is very curated, but we don't talk about my kitchen situation right now, so...
Well,
oh no, that's so bad.
I have a confession to make. I didn't know what a gourd was until we spoke.
Hang on, can someone confirm that's what a gourd is? I
thought it was like a bowl. You know?
Well,
I don't know things.
If it's not, then I've just publicly
I believe it. Even if it's not, your conviction is overwhelming.
Say anything with confidence and it's fine.
So chat says they are indeed gourds, so we're okay.
Yeah, excellent. Good, thank you. How are you, Paul, aside from all of the madness?
I'm here. I spent a lot of today making that intro for this show and other
I haven't
segments.
seen it.
It's really bad.
I just saw the responses.
It's really bad.
That's all I want. Yeah, good.
But I'm very happy that you were here to not witness that. And one thing I do want to point out actually to the listeners, so the reason I set this thing up is most art podcasts are very much like, hi, how did you get into the industry? What was your first? And, really the idea for this was not to do that kind of stuff. It's to talk more about decorative gourds and other important matters. But while we're on the subject, how did you get into the industry? What was your path?
So what was my path? It's kind of fun. I feel like I could be more upfront about my path here than necessarily I would be on like a podcast that wasn't full of nice friends. Because like usually you're like, I just got really into digital art. But like, if I'm being, I drew a lot of like hot anime boys after I found like a GeoCities website at like the age of 12 or 13, I think. And basically I just kind of got devoured by hot anime boys for a long time, which is how I'd like to go, to be honest. But I did a lot of like, and then I had also like a dragon phase that has never really ended, if I'm being honest. And I just drew a lot of dragons. And I kind of poured myself into that. And then I realized after being on DeviantArt for long enough that could actually be a job. And I was like, oh, shit, yeah. So I really doubled down. Actually, I doubled down on the dragons. I tried to expand from just hot anime boys and ended up studying game art at Oxford University. I was dragged kicking and screaming into learning how to 3D model. And then that led to me getting a 3D art role and some 2D stuff like in games, like some UI stuff as well. And yeah, I mean, I just always like making stuff. So it's been quite a weird route in some ways, in that I've bounced around a lot of different studios and I've done I've worn a lot of different hats, but also it's been quite direct in that I was just like, I like art. I'm going to do art now. Yeah. So, yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, I suppose indie games in general, you do tend to kind of bounce around a bit. And, I talk a lot on my kind of normal shows about like the, indie games not necessarily just being like a gateway to AAA, which is something that people think about a lot. Whereas working in indie is like awesome. It's like way cooler than AAA in some ways, because you get to do that thing. You get to do what you just said. Like you get to bounce around, try different things, and
I mean, like stuff. I have been so lucky that I have worked in small enough teams that I can just do a bunch of different things and end up just absorbing so much knowledge in, like VFX, 3D, working in engine, doing like art direction or like figuring out like the art style for things, building characters. Like I've pretty much at some point done everything in like the kind of art realm. So it means that I'm like not great at most stuff, but I kind of know a bit. And that's very helpful when you're kind of moving into the kind of roles that I'm in now, where I'm figuring out like the overall kind of plan for stuff. Because like at Mediatonic, I lead like the art side of pitches. So that's very much just like, okay, let's figure out what's going to happen here. It's very helpful to kind of have that general knowledge, even if like I wouldn't be able to make like a perfectly rendered 3D ZBrush character. I
thought you were going to say bum there. I thought you were going for like a perfectly rendered 3D bum.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Just full on. Like I wouldn't be able to create the beautiful sculpture that you see in the WAP music video.
Nobody can create that.
Not yet. I'm sure I will dedicate myself to finding that out. Yeah.
Please focus on that skill. That's a really cool point though, because like, again, it's something I talk about a lot. Like I think people often freak out, especially students, if they don't have like a really strong focus. I feel like 90% of the portfolios I review are people saying, I don't really know what, I like this and I like that and I'm confused and I don't know what to do. I want to work at Blizzard and I want to work at this place, and they have a million ideas. And it's like, that's actually like really good. That's like a strength. It's not a bad thing to have a lot of ambitions. But I think often you probably have to somewhat focus on something in order to get your foot in the door so that you can then kind of expand from there. What made you kind of go down this sort of concept route rather than illustration, or were you kind of doing both, do you think?
I mean, I guess I've always been doing both, but one thing I just wanted to come back to, which I think a wonderful piece of advice that my uncle gave me, which really stuck with me when it comes to not knowing what you want to do, or like feeling like there's loads of things you're interested in, and not knowing what you want to like specialize in, especially very early on. He said to me, a no is still an answer. And I found that very useful. I was doing a foundation art course at the time that I fucking hated. And I just sucked at it. And there were lots of different rotations. And I was like, no, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. And he was like, well, now you know. Now you know that you don't like that. You wouldn't have known otherwise. And I've definitely had that. Like, you look at all of the... I have like a slide when I do university talks of all of the different art styles that I've done, and it's completely all over the shop. But now as a result, like I feel grounded in the kind of stuff I do like for fun, but also I'm kind of able to adapt that into different like styles quite easily. But your actual question, doing concept art, I mean, I guess I do both concept art and illustration. I suppose like I just fell in love with digital painting and I love tech, and I just like being on the computer. I've always liked being on the computer. Like
computer's good.
Yeah. Like from a very early age, I was just like, hell yeah, time to log on to like just the dial-up internet and just browse some web games, and no one's going to be able to get me off the internet at all. And then like me and my brother would get into physical fights over who could be on the computer. So it's like, I don't know. It's something that I just find it really enjoyable. And I suppose like as long as I'm getting to do digital art and like push the boundaries of like the game side of things as well, then I'm really happy. I think that's also why I went a more concept art route, because like I like the emerging technology and the narrative and the design stuff that's coming out of games, because it's such a new medium. So yeah,
I think we actually have like alarmingly similar paths. I think. I've always kind of noticed that about you. Like you do kind of everything, which was very much the same as me. We were talking yesterday. We chatted briefly yesterday about computers during the 90s, and obviously my show has a very early mid-90s aesthetic,
which I love.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I'm very proud of it. It's very much like super my roots, honestly, because I still associate so much with those times, and it's so funny hearing you talk about like fighting with your brother, because my sister and I were exactly the same. Like I was trying to play Diablo, she was trying to play The Sims, and I remember yesterday we were chatting very briefly, and I was like, I have a bad story to tell. We'll save it for the podcast. My bad story, and I'm so sorry, Danielle, if you listen to this, my sister. Bless her socks. I love her to bits. She's 3 years younger than me, and she's fantastic. She used to like have tantrums if she didn't get to play The Sims. So I scratched up her disc so that it wouldn't work.
You monster!
I know.
That's terrible.
Because then it wouldn't work, and I'm like, now I can play Diablo for an extra hour before my mum shouts at me.
That's horrifying. That is actually appalling.
I feel really bad
I am so mad. Poor Danielle. That's
Poor Danielle,
not okay.
Indeed. I'm normally a very good brother, but I remember like I was trying to play Tony Hawk's 2, trying to play Diablo. She was just coming in here wanting to play The Sims and just yelling at me. It's not okay.
Yeah.
She didn't ever
what
find
did she do?
Sorry. But she might listen to this podcast. So Danielle, I love you so much. You're a brilliant sister, but never take Paul's game time.
You need to buy her a copy of The Sims for Christmas.
I probably should.
Yeah, I think you should. Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
That was a fucking weird era though, wasn't it? I'm sorry.
Pardon? No, go on.
I was just thinking it was such a weird era of gaming, and it's one that like people might not be aware of now. Like the idea of like a family computer, which was always in like a cupboard or a small shit room. What was your
and the tray, and there would always be like a little pull-out tray for the keyboard.
Yeah.
And you had the rollerball mouse, and you had to like just clean it out because it got gross sometimes. And and sometimes there'd be like speakers just kind of like clamped onto the side, like edges.
Chunky speakers on the monitor. Yeah.
I remember my dad got a Windows 98 PC, and he went to like Dixon's, and he managed to haggle a bunch of free games for it, and I just became obsessed with them because we didn't have like a ton of actual games, so I just would play like I would play like this football simulating game, but I didn't understand any of the football stuff, so I would just like change the shot prices and then watch them all run around, and I'd be like, okay, cool, the game's over, don't know what that means, time to change some more shot prices. Or we had like a demo in Carter Encyclopedia.
In Carter.
Yes. And I used to, it would let you make presentations, but there was a really limited amount of content, and I would spend hours crafting these very limited presentations about like birds, and I would like make my parents sit there and just make. Actually, this makes a lot of sense why I do so many talks. I'm just like, I love a presentation.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're all about flight.
God, we were the same child, which is very strange because I did the same stuff. I had in Carter 95 and in Carter 97, I think, and there was something magical about the games that were bundled with PCs back then. Someone in the chat said Team Packard Bell for sure.
Yeah, for sure. The Hewlett Packard PC with the speakers, and I felt so like powerful whenever I somehow managed to get the entire album of like a Bon Jovi. I don't know what album it was. It was a Bon Jovi album.
Yep.
And it was I think I had that MP3 and like Love Shack and The Final Countdown.
Yes. Oh my God, what weird selection.
And I would just like open up Windows Media Player and like put the visualizer on and just like jam out a bunch of
Oh no, you're giving me so many weird flashbacks. I'd forgotten about those visualizers. Fucking hell. I didn't need that memory.
No, I did.
Because I remember...
Oh my god, and I played...
Oh, you
Sorry, go on.
No, you go. Mine's not going to be as exciting as that.
I played... Does anyone remember the Pets series? I was obsessed with them. I played Cats 3 and Dogs 2.
I really like how you're pronouncing this, by the way.
Pardon?
I like how you're pronouncing this, by the way. Cats.
Yeah, it's Cats. I was obsessed. Like, I was really into all of the like the hexing stuff. Like, I would spend hours just browsing through GeoCities websites, finding like community-made, essentially modded pets. Just constantly. It was my pride and joy. I loved it so much.
Yeah, my sister was huge into dogs and cats. Like that kind of, it's, you know what's weird about this? I was thinking about this recently. Like that has never come back. The idea of like desktop companions, you know, almost like a sort of Tamagotchi that just sits on your Windows screen and fannies around with your windows. Like it's weird that that's never been a thing again.
Has it? Is there like No, I don't know. I was like, maybe there's like the Vocaloid characters. Do they like? I feel like someone probably has had like a Hatsune Miku just hanging out like on their window. But
I miss
kind
that
of
stuff.
Pardon?
I miss that stuff. It was just like a weird thing of the time. Did you play Hypnospace Outlaw ever?
I need to. I am so obsessed with it. I have like the sticker, which is like the classic kind of like indie thing, like being really excited about something and like seeing it at an event and then just never getting around to playing it.
Never had time to play it. Working in games. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's
pretty
so
much.
Well, actually, this is probably a good time to start the first of my recurring segments on this show, which is called, you probably won't be able to see this, but I'm going to play it anyway and then I'll tell you what it's called.
Good.
Answer me these questions 5.
The segment's called Answer Me These Questions 5. I will ask you 5 questions and you will answer them. Does that work?
Good. Am I like will I be thrown into like gunge or something if I get them wrong?
Like Nickelodeon style. If you get this
that's
wrong.
all I want.
I will play the intro again because I want to. Here it is again.
You have to send me all of these video files afterwards because it's very important.
Okay, so the first question is Furbies.
Yeah, yes. They're incredibly haunted, but I kind of respect that. Like I had one and it just started screaming. Like
Wait, hang on. It just started screaming.
it ran out. It was running out of batteries, and so it just kind of like sat there, just going and it wouldn't stop. And it became really, really terrifying. And I like put it in a cupboard to make it stop, and it wouldn't. But I didn't understand screwdrivers, so I just kind of tried to shut it up by like putting loads of stuff over it. Didn't go that well though. It was very haunted. I think I have some trauma from that.
I think they are truly haunted. My sister did a similar thing. She had a Furby that she loved very much, that I was quite scared of. That's probably why I have such an obsession with them now. She shut it away in a cupboard, and literally a few years ago, literally like 3 or 4 years ago, she opened the cupboard and it started making noises, but like low battery, like noises. They never die. They never die.
Good. Yeah. No, they're incredibly haunted, but I really like the fact that they're recurring now. They're really on the up now. So
yeah, I'm absolutely
that.
desperate to get a long fur, but I'm gonna try and commission someone to make me a long Furby because I basically need one.
Yeah. Have I hallucinated this? Did someone make like a long Furby with like a replica human spine?
I don't know. That sounds fucking terrible. Probably.
Like, that's just me visualizing like the anatomy of a long Furby. I'm not sure.
I feel like you mean like a tiny. I'm absolutely roasting. Yeah, I feel like there is a drawing of that. Yes, I thought you meant like someone had literally like constructed one with a spine, Predator style. Because that sounds fucking awful.
I mean, I'm kind of like an alien style Furby. like with the long face, and then it's just the eyes on the end, and then opens its mouth, and there's just another little like the Furby mouth kind of coming out there.
I've never wanted to draw something more in my life. I need to write this down. Furby
this is why we're concept artists. We have so many ideas. We have incredible ideas.
If anything, we have too many ideas.
Our brains are too strong.
So that's a good talking point. In terms of concept art, personal projects, do you pursue them? Do you find that a thing that you can do, or like for example, I always have a billion ideas for projects, but I find it very hard to be motivated to actually make anything.
Yes, yeah. I feel like that's definitely where, I mean, I've had this ongoing personal project for a long time, and it kind of manifests in different ways in terms of illustrations or products, like little stickers. It really tends to be what I'm doing at work, because if I'm like doing a lot of more management stuff or organization stuff or like design-y kind of things, I'm like, hell yeah, let's draw. I need to draw, otherwise I'm going to start screaming at someone, and no one likes that. Because I just go a bit feral if I'm not really like making something.
Yeah.
But if I've just literally been drawing all the time, then I'm just like, if I sit at my desk for another second, I'm going to eat someone. I just kind of, I don't really, I need some variety. So I really like to, I mean, like the Kickstarter that I'm doing at the moment with the pins, that's basically a response to the fact that I've not had my nice little outlet of art, but not from Comic-Con stuff, because I spent like all of last year and a bit before that just doing loads of comic conventions and like tabling there. And I'm a dork, and I love a spreadsheet, and I love a process, and I love streamlining things. And so I was getting a bit frustrated with the Comic-Con stuff because I'd streamlined the process down from like when I first started doing it, I was there with just like a million bags and suitcases, and I was just like, oh, I don't know what's going on. And by the end of last year, I was just like, everything is in one suitcase. I know exactly where it is. I time myself to see how quickly I can like put it up and like bring it back down again. But I don't have that because, you know, Miss Rona. But I'm kind of funneling that into doing pins. But I've definitely had I struggle to get things completed. Like I have a lot of grand ideas, and then it's just time, really.
Yeah.
Which is why I really like the pin stuff, because it's kind of, well, I've spent ages working on them. My kitchen has fallen to pieces because I've been so busy recently, but still, like, it's very satisfying to actually have gotten something done, because I think my brain was like, Anna, you never complete anything.
Yeah.
So that was fulfilling in that way.
I think that's probably like one of the most important things to learn, honestly, is like getting comfortable with finishing projects and moving on. Actually, we should probably talk about the Kickstarter anyway, since it's come up. Do you want to just kind of tell the listeners a little bit about the Kickstarter that you're doing right now, because it's active right now? So
it
please talk about what you're doing, because it's amazing. It's really
yes. I shall. Hello, everybody. I'm doing a Kickstarter. I've never done one before, but it's actually going very well, and I'm very alarmed at it. It's really cool. It's very, very cool. It's a set of enamel pins. They're called Tarot Elements Collection. The base set is a black and gold set of 4 enamel pins inspired by tarot suits, because I love tarot very much. And I also love like suits and fashions. They're kind of made to be like little lapel pins. So that's currently running on Kickstarter. It fully funded within 12 minutes, I think, which was insane. I think it's like maybe 400% funded now, which is really cool. And it's unlocked 3 different color sets as well as pretty much all the other stretch goals, but I'm like kind of staggering, posting them all up so they don't all just hit everyone at once. And so there's going to be exciting new things coming very soon. But yeah, so I am doing that at the moment, and it's very cool. And if you like enamel pins or tarot, or fancy having like a little kind of accessory to go with a nice outfit or something, then you should check it out. So,
they are so gorgeous. I absolutely love the designs. They look so cool. I think I have them up on the screen right now, but I can't see because my screen is here. Who knows? But hopefully you're looking at some cool pins.
Yeah.
This jacket, by the way, that you're wearing in your promo stuff is so cool. I love it. Get over that shit. It's a River Island menswear jacket that I just got. Like, I just ran into like a dry cleaners and I was just like, help, it doesn't fit me. And then they just kind of, that's what I do with most of my stuff, to be honest. But yeah, and then I just found like this body chain on Amazon and just kind of safety pinned it on, but no one can see the safety pins. So they're just like, yeah. I'm ruining the illusion of being, couture. Like, I'm actually just a goblin that finds shiny things and puts them on myself. We're all goblins here.
Yeah,
Aaron RP asks, did you have a mood board for the pins?
No. I mean, I have like all the things that I've been interested in. Like I generally look at a lot of like floral and like tarot inspiration stuff anyway. Like I've literally got like a tarot deck down here on my table, like the Modern Witch collection, which I love. I have like an extensive collection of tarot. So I think like I'm pretty familiar with the iconography, but not really. The way I tend to use reference a lot of the time, which isn't great, is I'll just draw from my brain, and then if I get stuck, I'll kind of use it as a problem-solving tool, which can kind of shoot me in the foot when I'm just like, sure, I'll draw from my brain, but I don't actually know what I'm doing. But it when it's something that I'm reasonably familiar with, like I have like an idea for how something will look, then that's pretty good. But yeah, that's not really a very useful answer. I'm sorry.
No, it's actually it's really interesting. I mean, so one of the things people, especially people who've not been doing art for a while, may not know. Honestly, the kind of techniques that concept artists use apply to almost everything. Like it applies to book covers, applies to like doing typography, logo design. Like it's the same skill set for everything. It's like sketching stuff out, trying to find things that flow nicely, using, a few kind of elements, not going too crazy. So like graphic design, illustration, concept art, they all kind of live in the same space. So it's cool to see the way that you, as someone obviously who's super artistic and has like a good design sense, approaches making something tangible, like something that like has to look good, small on a lapel and also like up close. So I think it is really interesting actually. Do you have any? You don't have any of the pins?
No. So that's why they're being kickstarted, because it's very expensive to get them made.
Imagine,
like the minimum order is like 50. And when it's like 50, they're pretty expensive. So yeah, and when you want to do 4, like that's already like over £1,000. So yeah, that's kind of, I'm essentially using Kickstarter as a pre-order system, I suppose.
It makes sense. It looks like it's doing well.
Pardon?
It looks like it's doing really well, which is the main thing, because it's amazing stuff.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. It's really cool. I'm very excited about it. It's I don't know. It's very, very. I wasn't expecting the sheer amount of support, I guess. Like before I'd even tweeted about it, like there were people sitting. Like I'd launched it and then I went to like hit tweet, and within that minute, like there would be like £300 already like pledged. It was ridiculous. I was just like,
cool. Well, you bloody deserve it. Do you find projects like that, do you consider them to be like small things because it's only a few assets, or do you think of it as being like a kind of big project to put all your attention on for a while? That's a weird question, but I'm trying to think like in terms of personal work, like does planning for this take like months and months and months, or is it like something you can plan out over a couple months? Is it a big This is a very weird question, but I'm on it
like
now.
what was the scope of it?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
the planning scope was. I mean, I've had this weird situation where like I have my art, and then I have like the kind of stuff that I'm known for, which is, I guess, like the kind of suits that I wear and that stuff as well. And I wanted to find a way to kind of like have that meet in the middle, because I felt like it was two separate kind of things. And I care very much about tailoring and like patterns and just accessories and just the fashion side of stuff. But also I love art and like also like Comic Cons and running my own shop and selling things. And I think I find post really magic. Like I used to run an Etsy store, and I'd like hand write little like letters for people that bought prints. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that for this, unfortunately. But like I wanted to find a way to have them meet in the middle in a way that I found really satisfying. And so I was doing some research into like places to get like shirts printed or something, and I'd like totted it all up, and then I messaged one of my friends, Yoshi Yoshitani, and I was like, I was just like asking a few questions, and I was thinking of maybe ordering like maybe 10 shirts, and Yoshi was just like, what are you talking about? That's ridiculous. Have bigger goals. Like you can do this. It was just like really pushing me to do like a small thing, but a tangible thing. And that was just amazing. Like a really good push toward doing something like this. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do some pins then. And so I did the designs back in August, and then I completed them and I didn't know what to do next, and I got intimidated by that, and I kind of got a bit stuck like in my head. I just built it up like, I don't know how to do a Kickstarter, I'm very scared of this, I'm stressed. And I got super depressed because I wasn't doing anything, and I was just like feeling like a bit aimless, and I was whinging to my friend Anissa Sanusi, and she was like, bitch, do your pins, like you've had them done for ages. Like
I love this team, like Yoshi over here who's like super successful on Kickstarter, and Lisa who's just like a fucking personality come together.
They're just like sort your shit out, Anna. And Anissa was like, you just need to have like other people to bounce off, because I need other humans to function. I mean, most people do, but I just needed to bounce some ideas off people. And then I set myself a very strict deadline, which I did slip on by about 7 days. But given like I completely reworked the designs, I had another sit down with Yoshi and like really hash out what the Kickstarter would look like. And yeah, I just kind of worked flat out on it for like a month, I suppose. Not constantly, but like obviously I have a full-time job as well. So like evenings were just like tweaking designs, figuring out like branding, which thankfully Anissa helped out like tons with. I was also doing a writing course at the same time. My top tip is find something that you're obligated to do that you want to procrastinate from.
That's a great idea.
Because I was like, I don't want to do my writing homework, so I'm going to go and work on my Kickstarter, because if I'm not horribly busy, I'm apparently non-functional and I just don't get anything done. So I need to, which is not healthy. Don't be me. Don't be me. But finding an opportunity to like, I productively procrastinate, I suppose. But I need to have
100% the same.
That level of stuff to be able to like get things done.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just turned into like a puddle. So.
Like Alex Mack.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about apologizing to my stream. My stream is used to hearing my terrible advice of being like, don't work too hard. Anyway, I'm off to do my 9 jobs. Bye. I'm gonna write a film script now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like the advice though to like, if you want to do a personal project, you should enroll in a course for something that you know is going to bore you, because that will force you to be creative in that thing.
I don't find it boring. I'm finding it really interesting. I signed up to this writing course because I have a friend who is like we just impulsively decide to do things, and we're both like kind of impulsive and kind of like, hell yeah, let's do this. That like it's resulted in like some fun things. Like we were like, I own a motorbike helmet, but I have like no motorbike or anyone I know that has a motorbike. And I was kind of like, well, I spent like 120 quid on this. And then he was like, do you want to, let's learn to ride bikes. Let's be in a cool bike gang. And then we kind of just booked it without really thinking. And then you just turn up on the day and you're just like, oh, fuck, we've got to learn to ride motorbikes.
That's cool.
And we're just there. I remember we turned to each other, we're just like, this is a lot harder than we expected.
Are we cool yet?
And then we were like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go on a motorbike trip. And it was like November, and I was just there like, I don't know if I can remember how to ride motorbikes. It was raining. We had like radios, and it's the coolest thing I've ever owned, like having proper radios. We had like call signs. I was Scout Delta.
That's so cool.
But my friend was Boy Eagle, which I think is kind of cooler in terms of that call sign.
That's good.
But yeah, anyway, we decided to book a writing course. This is just story time with Anna at this point.
That's the
but
podcast.
we booked a writing course. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it, but that kind of accountability where it's like, oh God, I've got to do my homework. But even though I like it and I'm glad when I do it, I need basically the threat of a school teacher saying like, just being disappointed in me to get anything done. But I also need to procrastinate from it. And it's actually, I think I might be doing courses for the rest of my life now, because I'm just so much more productive when I'm trying to avoid schoolwork.
Yeah. I mean, I have the same thing with art directors. Like, there's nothing that makes me work harder than a disappointed email from Cynthia or like Kate Irwin. And it's like, oh, I can't let down my art moms. That's not okay.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's kick this off with the second question of our segment. I've forgotten what it was called already. Doesn't matter. That was it. I will ask you. So this question is Gladiators or Robot Wars?
This is the hardest question I've ever been asked in an interview. Like, hands down. Like, across career-wise. This is. Oh no, I'm on mute. You're not. Don't worry. You were for a second, but you're fine now. Okay, good. Okay.
Chat's just way behind the times.
Fair. Yeah. See, I love both so much, but I think it's going to have to be Robot Wars. Like, I cannot put into words how obsessed I am. Like I was as a kid and continue to be with Robot Wars.
I had an inkling.
I fucking love Robot Wars. Hypnodisc for life. Like it is my favorite. Razor also very good. Chaos 2 I think is just a bit too obvious. What's your favorite house robot? Sorry, I'm ready.
I was about to say, and I've completely forgotten the name now. The baddie robot was always my favorite, and I've completely forgotten his fucking name now.
Which one?
The big baddie one. I've completely forgotten his name.
Oh, Lot.
Yes, thank you. Jesus Christ. I was always rooting, which now that I think about it, I was kind of rooting for the man, wasn't I? I was a Robot Wars conservative.
Sergeant Bash was probably...
He served. He served.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's everyone's faves? Digifolio says, I've met two of the presenters of Robot Wars. I once served Clarkson in a co-op when I worked there. Bumped into Craig Charles.
Yes.
Sweet
Love Craig
king.
Charles.
When I worked there.
Of course he was drunk.
He was wankered. Incredible.
Is he in any other state?
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. Lister.
Yeah.
Fucking Lister. Oh my God. That show was very important for me growing up.
I had like the manual, not the manual, like the annual.
The manual.
Yeah, it sounds similar. And I just like pour over all of the stats. I just loved it.
Wait, hang on. It had stats.
Oh yeah,
of course yeah. Fucking hell. Sorry,
Yeah.
this is me going down a trip down memory lane here. So I haven't thought about Robot Wars until I wrote that question.
I've been thinking about Robot Wars for a long time.
That's beautiful. That's incredible. Samantha said the self-writing robots changed the world. They did. They changed the game once they started getting back up again. It was
there was they relaunched it, and honestly, like the robots were too good at that point. Like the best time for Robot Wars is when it's just a bunch of dudes in their garage in like the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Who have just decided to like they've just got a big controller and they're like, let's build a robot. Like the minute you get like engineering students involved, it's not fun anymore. Like
I know what you mean. Yeah. It's almost like what's the rally thing that people do in their where you build like soapbox cars and stuff like that. Like the kind of messiness of it is really appealing.
Yeah, you want it to be scrappy. You want things to catch fire.
Yeah.
Like yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
That's good. Okay, that was a good question. Do I have any more? Let's just make some up. Best Spice Girls song. To murder someone to.
Oh, I mean, okay, this is a confession. I wasn't really that into Spice Girls.
That's fair.
I think I was more of like an S Club 7, like steps person. Like I had, I think largely that's because we didn't have a lot of CDs. Like my dad plays guitar and he had lots of like guitar. It turns out I grew up with a lot of like classic rock, but I never actually knew what it was because it was all just the instrumental version. So it's like I'd be like vibing to a song, but I wasn't used to there being lyrics. It'd be very alarming for me. But like in terms of other CDs that I had in the house as a kid, for a long time we just had ABBA Gold, Greatest Hits, and the Star Wars soundtrack. And so I would just choose one of them and put it on and make I would just make my parents watch me do like a 1 hour dance recital to that CD.
That's incredible.
And it wouldn't be planned out in any way. But I think they were like, we can't watch Anna like throw herself around the room to like the Cantina theme anymore. So I got S Club 7 Reach and I think like Steps Greatest Hits. So never really Spice Girls.
That's fair. That is fair.
Yeah.
I have a weird Spice Girls thing. I think I might have mentioned it on the stream before. I don't remember, but the year I got my best Christmas ever was the year I got Warhammer 40k 2nd edition, I guess, with the orcs and Space Marines, and the Spice Girls CD, which is my first CD. My first CD. Because I was weird because I didn't listen to music when I was really young. My parents were the same. They had like, ZZ Top and Led Zeppelin and ELO and stuff playing in the house all the time. But I wasn't hugely into music when I was a kid, which is very weird. I kind of massively transitioned into music in like the second half of high school. And that's when I started playing drums and all that kind of shit. But that year I got that Spice Girls, the first CD, and having worked on Warhammer now and like being kind of always attached to Warhammer and always thinking about Warhammer, I literally hear Spice Girls every time I think about it.
That's so good.
Like it's so weird. They're so entwined in my head, and it's very strange because they could not be more opposed.
You just need to overlay it some kind of like cinematic or something with Spice Girls music. And that's your next intro. It's great.
Was there a band who's haunted you throughout your career, or like a band you associate with like a type of art or a specific thing at all?
I mean, I had like I Purity Ring is my favorite band. But like I don't know.
Yeah.
There's like music that I associate because I tend to listen to things in singles, and so like I associate like when I discovered that with when I moved somewhere. So it's like they have very specific senses of place. So like I first discovered Purity Ring when I moved to the Isle of Wight. And so when I listen to that, I feel like I'm back there. In terms of like music that's influenced my art career or like just kind of sticks with me. But I remember this is more kind of like youth again. I had iTunes and it would show you how many times you played the song, and I always listed by most played. And I'd like, back when I was the most productive I've ever been in my life, like I would wake up at like 6 a.m. so I could get on the computer so my brother would still be asleep and paint. Fucking nerd. And I would just sit there and draw like angsty ass emo boys whilst listening to like My Chemical Romance, Welcome to the Black Parade, like that album endlessly. Like I think I was reaching like 1,000 plays on like House of Wolves. It was a problem.
I mean, I get it. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So probably stuff like that. Yeah.
Do you listen to stuff when you work now? Like, do you tailor music to what you're doing, or is it just kind of like a random thing?
I wish I did. I think that'll be useful. Sometimes I'll use it as inspiration because I do very much draw inspiration from music. Like I grew up in a very musical household. So that's really important to me. But I tend to have a bit of an odd approach to listening to stuff where it's like I'll discover, I have like my liked list, and it's kind of almost like it's a historical chronicle of things because it's all listed like by date when I added it. And so I just have a tendency, like a really bad tendency, to just listen to like the latest 5 tracks that I've added there, because just this like brain thing where it's like I found a new song and I'm going to listen to it over and over and over and over again until like I've wrung every like drop of joy out of it.
Yeah.
But honestly, most of the time when I'm working, I just listen to like rain sounds or just some kind of like soothing, like, I don't know, spiritual lady from Glastonbury, just like tapping some crystals and telling me like nice moon. Like I just
wait a minute, telling you nice moon. Nice.
Like just quietly in the background, which is probably a big reason as to why I've like gone down this tarot path, to be honest. But I don't know, it just kind of quiets my brain down and helps me focus.
I get it.
But if I'm like it's a weird one. I tend to listen to music quite late into the evening, like when I'm getting like amped up to paint. And unfortunately, my probably most creative hours are between like 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. Like my entire family are night owls. Like everyone just kind of completely goes out of whack with like the general public over Christmas. Like my dad would be up recording music at like 2 a.m. Just when we're no longer accountable. But yeah, so I think it's kind of a not a genetic thing, but like I just work very well at night, and when I am listening to music at night, it's very loud. It's usually very upbeat and quite like either aggressive or in your face. Like, and I'll just be there, just like essentially dancing at my desk, just throwing myself around in my chair, just like painting. But that is like the best feeling in the world, and that's quite a hard level to hit because I don't really stay up till 2 a.m. painting anymore. I gotta go to bed.
That's a tough one if you're a night owl, because I presume you're obviously working full time with Mediatonic and then doing freelance stuff. Have you always done that? Have you always done kind of like full-time stuff and then freelance on the side? Yeah.
I mean, I briefly freelanced before I got my first studio job, but it wasn't enough to like support like rent and everything.
Yeah.
So I was still working like full-time, either doing data entry or part-time like waitressing.
Yeah. I was the same.
Yeah, like,
I worked at a
and
clothes shop.
then, and I'm just too anxious to go full freelance. Like, and also I like working in studio.
Yeah.
Like, I like that kind of stability. I like a studio environment. I like just wandering around, having like a rapport with everyone, and like, yeah, I think I wouldn't really be able to be as creative as I am the way that I function if I wasn't in like a kind of dedicated space, I suppose.
I think it's really cool that you're saying that, because I know, like, much like a point we made earlier, like a lot of people think that like freelance is like the ultimate goal. Like you work in studios until blah blah blah, and then you start going freelance. But honestly, like, I mean, I've been freelancing since 2016 now. So end of 2016. So I guess since 2017. So like 3 years I've been freelancing full time. I was the same as you. I started freelancing before I got my first job, but I was working in retail during that time.
Yeah.
But I love freelancing, but honestly, I miss studio life so much because
I really love it.
it's great, isn't it? Like, there's just people to vibe off, and you always have, folk to talk to. And I think it's important for people in the chat or who are listening who maybe have their sights set squarely on freelance, especially as newer artists. You will grow so fast if you get a studio job with like a decent art team who you can literally sit beside, and sitting beside an art director who's super talented, you'll learn so much more than you would watching like a Blender tutorial on YouTube. It's nuts how the difference, and I really miss it. Like, I'm working with studios remotely right now, which is good, but it doesn't change like being able to be in there with 20 of your friends working on projects.
I've made some of I've made some of the closest friends just from working in studio as well. I absolutely agree with that. Like when I was working down at Climax Studios in Portsmouth, I was working on this very treasured little game called Lola and the Giant, and I was sat next to my lead, and it was this very close-knit little team, and I learned so much about just game production in that environment. But like my lead would always just kind of, whenever someone, especially if someone from design or programming came over to me, he'd always like take a headphone out to make sure that like the right stuff was being communicated. Yeah. And if like any other leads were chatting, he'd kind of go over and make sure. And just seeing how everyone trusted each other, and like if someone was like, no, that's not going to work, they're like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's fine. Just seeing that was so useful. And like people giving credit, and it's just all of these really like best practices things that I picked up. And just, like I have had some opportunities for formalized mentorships. But to be honest, like generally, I've had like a ton of, I guess, kind of unofficial mentorship, like people that I just end up working with who end up kind of mentoring me without it ever kind of being spoken about, but I learned so much from them. Yeah. And that is just, it's been worth its weight in gold, because I do my best work when I'm around other people. And that's different for plenty of others, but for me, I need that back and forth. Like, I was stuck. I remember I was stuck in a problem, and I'd been running up against this image for like 2 days, and I could not get it to work. And those incidental conversations, like I was just chatting to one of my colleagues, and we were just not really about anything in particular. And then I just mentioned something, and I was just like, oh, wait, okay, this thing. Oh, and I can see how this can fit in. And then suddenly it's just like this waterfall. And oh my God, there's such a magic moment when that happens and both people are on the same page, and you just both go like, oh, and it's so exciting. I just love it. It's magic. Feeling. It's magic. And that's why I need to be in a big room of other people. Yeah. So it's so valuable, honestly. Just quickly to say, Izzy Medrano has rated with a party of 19. Thank you so much, Izzy. Hello.
Izzy Medrano, phenomenal magic artist, lovely human,
amazing,
beautiful, talented person. Welcome, Raiders. We are doing the first episode of my new podcast where I'm interviewing artists and creatives that I love and admire. And we have the phenomenal Anna Hollinrake principal artist. Are you principal concept artist or principal artist?
Principal artist.
Principal artist.
Yeah. I mean,
Mediatonic.
it's an odd role.
Actually, I wanted to talk about it a wee bit. Because it's principal artist is a role I've seen more recently. I don't think it was so much of a thing before, but like you are working on the pitch side of things, which is by the way, the coolest thing you can possibly do at a game studio is work on pitches. I was very lucky when I was at Blazing Griffin to work on. I was like the same kind of role, like an art director for pitches, basically. So we worked on like Legacy of Kain and Necromunda and all these cool things. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that role is? Because people might not be, because a lot of people think that like when you work in games, you are a concept artist, you're a 3D artist, or you're like I don't fucking know, like asset.
VFX artist.
VFX, yeah, artist. Asset person. Yeah. Do you want to talk about like the pitch stuff specifically?
Sure. So in terms of like what principal artists are, they are kind of, I think, a response to a pretty common problem I find in games and just in general, where you have people who are pretty experienced at something, who have gone from junior, mid-level, senior, and then they're getting more and more management when actually like their skill level is going up, but they might not necessarily have had management training, or they're not that interested in it. So rather than going into a lead level, because a lot of people, I've spoken to quite a few that are just like, oh my God, I became a lead and then my life was management and I wasn't doing art anymore. And then they quit because they're not happy with that. Yeah. And I think principals are a response to that. So they're still doing art. They're kind of, generally they're, I guess, kind of the most senior in that area. And they do a lot of like vision holding and mentorship and that kind of thing. So for me, I'm kind of in an odd space because I do sometimes like lead things because other artists will come on to pitches. But what I do is I will kind of work with the designers to take like specific like game ideas or like little kind of product ideas and turn them into like pitch decks and figure out what they'll look like, figure out like the UI, the logo, how the gameplay shot will look. I suppose I'm a principal artist. I mean, I'm almost entirely a concept artist, but I suppose because part of my role as well is kind of evangelism in that way. Like I do quite a lot of talks and that kind of thing as well. I also like will block things out in 3D, and there's just a lot of conversations that happen to figure out what the game is and how it should look and the tone of it. So yeah, it's really, really cool. It's a lot of like very fast decision making. And sometimes I get to like manage people as well, which I really enjoy, and like kind of like lead like the approach to certain pitches and what we need and all that kind of thing. So yeah, it's really cool.
Interesting. It's essentially an art director role. Like to everything you're saying is basically an art director role, which is, for people who are not aware, art directors essentially are. The role can change depending on the studio, depending on the size, blah, 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 blah. But in general, it's like the person who is in charge of maintaining the vision of the project and making sure that it meets the expectations that are set at the start. And if you work in smaller studios especially, the art director will often be in charge of creating that vision, usually with other concept artists. Like a typical game studio might have, let's say it's got one designer, one story lead, and blah, 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 blah. The art director is the person who's going in and going, okay, well, what will it look like? And what you're talking about here with pitch art is kind of the same process. It's like, let's say we're pitching on this IP, we know what size our team is. Like we got like 20 artists, or we got 5 artists, or whatever the heck it is. What can we do with that? And how do we pitch this to a publisher or whatever to make it like, to get them to buy it, basically, to get them to buy into the idea. Do you, and one thing I wanted to, so the whole reason I started that whole thing was like the point you made about communication is so key, because I think artists in that kind of role, and this very much goes for art directors, but like principal artists as well, and anyone who is in that role where you have to be an evangelist and be someone who can speak to the product, working on your communication skills is really, really important. Did you find that came naturally to you? Like, were you always good at talking to people or explaining concepts? I know you said you did that stuff when you were a kid for sure, but like, was that always being comfortable for you?
I mean, I'm acutely aware that I can chat a lot of shit pretty easily. But I think in terms of communication, I learned a lot in terms of defining like how things should look. I guess kind of by trial and error, but I learned pretty quickly that if you start talking about compositional tangents with a designer, they're just going to be like, what are you talking about? Like it's like it's also why I really love games, because there's such wildly different disciplines and almost like dialects between like the people that make it, which I think is a really interesting problem that you have to solve. So I guess it was kind of a trial and error process, but I work quite strongly in mood. Like the kind of things that I make, they tend to have, in terms of my personal work, quite a strong emotive response. Like I get a lot of people saying, oh, I want to be there. This makes me feel really warm and cozy. And the kind of things that I make tend to have this emotional response. And as a general rule, I think most people can understand an emotive mood. Like I would always, when I was developing a new environment for Lola and the Giant, which is where I kind of really locked in this process, was talking to the designer, and I would literally just have either like a level title or a gray box, and I'd be like, how do you want this to feel? How do you, what do you want the mood to be? And so they would say, oh, I want it to be kind of like melancholic. And it's like, okay, what does melancholic look like? What should this be evoking? And you want to feel kind of like lonely, and it's kind of like open, and you're really small. It's like, okay, so we want all of these things. Like, what does melancholic look like? Okay, so it's a big open sky. It's kind of bright, but it's a cold light. Maybe there's just like a single tree, like it's very sparse in terms of the environment. It's not like necessarily jagged or aggressive in terms of the landscape, but it's empty and it's sweeping. And like, this is the kind of thing that I think is the most effective way to kind of figure out what everyone wants if we use like this emotive language. So that's kind of what I've been trying to use in terms of how like my communication approach. So generally I'm like, what do you want this to say? Like, what emotions and kind of like themes are you trying to communicate? And obviously that's quite difficult when you're taking a more I suppose less kind of wavy hands artsy approach, but when you're trying to like evoke a mood, that's a really straightforward way to like communicate with designers, for example.
I mean, I think that's like such a good example, actually, like, because what you did there when you were talking through that, I bet everyone who was listening to that was imagining that scene and like starting to put together what that means. And I think for people who want to be concept artists, understanding how to do that, how to concept something to turn like a bunch of concepts into something that people can understand who aren't necessarily artistic is incredibly important, because you have to think about most of the people that you're pitching to, whether you're a pitch artist or not. We're always pitching to people. Concept artists, we're pitching things to our art directors, we're pitching things to our designers. They may have an idea for a character, and might be like, okay, I think this. Learning how to put that across to them in a way where even people who have not an ounce of creative intent, people who can't imagine things very easily, in a way that they can undigest, is so important. And I actually really love the way you said that whole thing. That was like absolutely perfect. Because there's, like I said, there's two sides of this. There's knowing how to describe that thing, and then there's knowing how to visualize it as well. And knowing how to visualize it, I feel like, is almost as important, equally as important as the kind of concept side. And that's like being able to take an IP that exists, apply the filter of melancholy to it, and do a concept drawing that applies to that. So I think that was brilliant. And so if you're wanting to be a concept artist, write that down. That was really good. just listen to that again.
Just ask
fantastic.
people what they're trying to say. Just
exactly.
What do you want this to feel like? Yeah,
because invariably people don't know what they want, especially game designers. God, half the time, they tend to have a muddled series of ideas, but as soon as you start really pushing into that and trying to understand what it is they want and get them to verbalize it to you, then you can create mood boards. You can find images that might maybe evoke the thing that they're expressing, and as soon as you have as soon as you show them an image and they're like, it's like that, boom, your job is done. You have the thing to work from. That's really, really cool.
I think it's also I'm a firm believer, when I was working in TV, when I was working on this show called Love Monster, I had an amazing director, and one thing that he said to me was always make sure you're solving problems for the next person down the pipe. Mm-hmm. So you get past the thing, make sure that you solve some of those problems and don't cause any more. Yeah. And I think it's a really great way to be able to turn to a designer and be like, how do you want this to feel? Because that might not necessarily be something that they've thought about, especially if they're more focused on mechanics. But if you're talking about how do you want this to feel, you kind of bring up the question of what are the themes of this game? Mm-hmm. And I think that you can get some really interesting design choices by considering what the core themes of it are, whether it's connection, whether it's isolation, because then you can kind of think about how you want to reinforce those themes within the smaller mechanics as well. It's just a series of springboards. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a really neat little way of solving problems down the line as well. I get really excited about this. This is
my meat and potatoes as well. It's interesting because the stuff you're talking about here is a fabulous example of why working in indie is so great. Because in indie, you get a chance to work with game designers and have those conversations. You can't always do that in a AAA studio. In AAA, often the artists are on a different floor or a different department, and you get here is game, make art that make game good. Whereas in indie studios, and one of the reasons I always go on about why it's so awesome to work in indie, you can sit down with your designer and say, what do you want to evoke? Say they're making braid, what is the feeling? And they'd be like, oh, it's melancholy. It's like, okay, cool. Well, let's use these kind of palettes. And it's like, but it becomes uplifting towards the end. It's like, okay, well, maybe we can find a way to do something with the shaders so that they change over time, or do something with the skies, mood boards, color palettes, etc., etc. So they'll change over time and evoke that feeling. We basically have the same job, which is exciting because you get to be like, yeah, we're going to take your rough ideas and we're going to turn them into something that's going to really excite people, or really get under their skin, or make them feel good, or make them feel bad, or whatever you want them to feel. It's very exciting.
And I think it's also just very, we're problem solvers ultimately. Mm-hmm. And if we can solve problems on multiple levels, then that's ideal. Yeah. I love technical limitations, because I think that's such a wonderful opportunity for creativity. Yeah. For example, and it's another thing about indie, sometimes you have a certain budget restriction, or there's always going to be a budget restriction. There's always going to be a time restriction. But you find ways to do interesting things with that. Probably the best one that I can think of in terms of what I've worked on. I worked on this, I art directed a tiny little VR indie game called Arca's Path VR. And it was it was a real kind of rapid production process. And it had to run on a ton of different headsets. And so I was like, okay, I've already worked in mobile VR. I know how restricting it can be, because it has to render twice. And so I was like, so part of the design of the game was the fact that you were in a digital world, the character puts the headset on. And I was very kind of like, okay, how can we make this work? Because you have to put, they're in a digital world. They, it has to be easily renderable on like a phone. How can we play with this so that it runs well, but also reinforces the theme of the game? And so we ended up using glitch aesthetics, which I love.
Yes.
To kind of, I love glitch aesthetics so much. But we ended up using like this glitchy kind of effect where you're in this digital world that's very lush and it's very friendly at first. But we used a lodding system. And for those of you that don't know, lodding is a level of detail system where basically the further away you get from something, the lower amount of detail or polygons you will have. And so we used that system to have these lodded models that would almost generate around you in this kind of glitchy way. And because of that, it looked really like it was really close. So like it's this very meditative game where like you will guide this ball with your head like around these levels, but wherever you went, these plants would kind of spawn around you, and the track would like spawn slightly further ahead. But that wasn't very expensive in terms of rendering because everything was high like density in terms of polygons, was very close to you, and it looked nice when it was kind of blooming on the screen. So cool. And so it was kind of a neat little situation because it reinforced the themes of the game of it being a digital world, and it was super like efficient in terms of rendering as well. So I like little problem solving things like that.
That's a fantastic example. I think yet another reason to be excited about indie games is that, honestly, it's like finding ways to break down the problems that you have. You're working in Unity with two artists, how do you make an effective pipeline with two artists or three artists or whatever it is? I think that's a really fantastic example. I'm working on a game right now with Inkle that I can't talk about too much, but I'm art directing their new game, and that's all 2D, and it's all like millions of cards going into the distance. It's like, how do we make that work on a phone or something like that? And it's like, what do LODs mean in an entirely 2D game? Like, it's exciting. If you've never worked on a game before, if you're listening to this and you're thinking like, I want to be a concept artist, I want to work on games, find yourself an indie studio, look into your scene. Obviously it's hard now because the world doesn't exist anymore, but it's a good thing to aim for.
I would really recommend game jams as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that's where I was going to go. I was going to ask what would be some of your recommendations for finding studios or people in your area, I guess, because I'm guessing you've probably done game jams and like hangouts and stuff like that before.
I've done one game jam and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life, and I honestly don't want to do any more because it was so perfect.
Do you want to explain what a game jam is?
Okay, so a game jam, traditionally, they usually take place in specific areas. So, for example, I was part of Global Game Jam. And everyone arrived at this location in Brighton, although they happen all over the world. There are lots of different jam sites. And it usually runs from, I think, Thursday evening to the end of day Sunday. And you would form teams, and then you would get a theme or a word to kind of create something for. And then you would have to just make a game together in that time. And a lot of the time you'd be working with people you never even met. Like when I was making, we made this little game called The Shepherd and the Sea, which I'm still unbelievably proud of to this day.
Cute.
Oh my God. I'm going to send it. I'm so proud of it.
Yeah.
I'm so proud. But it was like the theme was waves, and you were playing as a sheepdog that had to herd sheep to little like mounds of dry land before the tide came in and dragged them all out to sea. And they all have little names about like names for the different sheep above their heads. Oh, that's perfect. It's in chat now. But wait until you lose, and they also get more disobedient as well. Like they don't always do what they're supposed to. But wait until you lose, because there's a fun little surprise at the end.
Oh my God, that's so bad.
But it was one of those experiences where like you make something very tangible very quickly. Especially if you are used to just making art that doesn't do anything. There's so much magic in like handing it over to an animator or a programmer or just someone that's just like, cool, I'm going to make it actually do things now. And then you'll have a little thing that you can take away. And even if it's not really that functional, you still tend to like, you always learn something. You'll always take a lesson from it. And it improves your working experience with people. It can improve your portfolio if you end up polishing it up. And it's good for like, I mean, I don't like using the word connections. It's more just like making friends, like just meeting developers and building that rapport. So there's like Discords. There's Ludum Dare, which is an online one, and they have a Discord. There are a whole bunch of them. I'm sure that there's probably a master list or something if you just search like game jams on Google. But I would really recommend that, especially if you're like, I want to be in games. I want to be a game dev, and I'm sick of just painting stuff and it doesn't move.
Well, one other thing as well, like most major cities have game dev meetups. I feel like I've been to very few cities that haven't had at least some variation of like a game dev drinks on every Friday or whatever. It doesn't matter if you drink or not. It's like, it's a very common thing. So it's well worth, if you are, you want to be a concept artist, but you maybe don't know anyone in your city or nearby, have a look into like your city and just search for like game dev meetup, Orlando, wherever the heck you live, and try and see that stuff. Because like chances are there will be people going to those. And much like with art jams or game jams, they'll be so excited to have an artist. Almost no matter what level you are, if you've seen programmer art, you will understand the value of artists. Be able to come in there and even have a vague idea of like, when you say, even if it's scary, and that's something I'd like to talk about. I want to take another break in a second, but one thing I would like to talk about is like fear around getting into the industry and fear around jobs as well, because that's something I had a lot of when I was kind of starting off. I lost a few opportunities because of that, so I'd love to talk about that. I wanted to talk a bit about art and fear. You want to talk about fear?
I have that book.
Fear's cool. Oh yeah, that is the book, isn't it? I haven't read it. I own it.
Oh, yeah.
Is it good?
That's the art experience. That's buying a bunch of books that people have recommended, lying them all out in a nice way on your floor, taking an artistic photograph, posting it to Twitter and Instagram, being like, I have got all of these books. I'm very intelligent. And then you never open them ever again.
Never read it.
Yeah.
Love it.
I have some very beautiful copies of Andrew Loomis that have been propping up monitors for years.
See, that's a really good talking point as well, because I've never found any of those books useful. Loomis, Bridgman, nobody's technique has ever been helpful for me.
I have this 10-minute figure drawing video that I found very useful, and then by and large nothing else really. The problem is like I have the Bridgman drawing book, but all of the scans are really bad, so you're just kind of like like it's all really like pixelated and confusing. I don't know. Hang on, I'm squinting. I had like one that was quite useful, maybe. Figure drawing, design and invention, maybe. But similarly, I don't know, man. My brain didn't really understand how to learn for a really long time. I'm not necessarily sure it does still.
Not mine.
I buy a lot of books and then I look at them and I think about how good it is that I own them. I'm looking at them right now. I'm looking at my shelves and then I never read them. Similarly, I sign up for courses and I think about how great it is that I have access to these resources. and I never watch them because I can't sit still for more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've done one half of a schoolism course. I've been paying for schoolism for like 3 years now.
Whomst among us has not subscribed to schoolism?
Indeed.
And then
Craig
not
Mullins.
actually done anything.
Let us watch 1 to 3 videos and then never watch any more again.
Yeah, exactly.
God. Craig.
Oh no. The way that I learn, that I know so far, is that I will throw myself into something, and if I get stuck, then I will try and watch the shortest video possible at 1.5 speed to figure out what's wrong.
Yeah.
I problem solve. I think I learn by doing. One thing that really kind of, I think, screwed me over was just the whole tracing discourse thing, because I learn through kind of the physical movement of stuff. Like knowing the kind of form, like when I'm doing, like, you know, when people in life drawing would like hold out a pen and they go like this, and I do that and I'd be like, I don't know how this helps me. I'd just be like, am I an artist yet? But like the things that I would find useful was tracing the curve of like the way they were standing and then repeating that shape. And that's just how I learn. Like I don't remember necessarily like a series of numbers so much as the way that the sounds feel in my mouth, or like the movement of pressing a certain like key sequence. And so for me, I never traced anything because I thought it was like evil, but then I was like, okay, I'm gonna like trace the way that this figure moves, or I don't understand how to do like this really bold stylization. I'm going to take something that I find really useful, I'm going to trace that, and I'm going to use that as reference to turn it in my mind 90 degrees around.
That is it. That's great.
And just understand the way the shapes feel. And then those sketches are never going to go anywhere. But I understand how those shapes feel now. And that's how my brain learns. But I didn't know how I learned. So I just spent like, I don't know, fucking 5 years of my life sitting at a computer mindlessly copying stills of like Lord of the Rings, or like painting just slightly damaged plaster casts of busts and things, trying to be like, oh yeah, this is studying, when actually I wasn't analyzing anything, I wasn't understanding anything, I was just mechanically copying stuff, and that's not how I learn. So yeah,
that's a great point.
Yeah,
that's really valuable.
I'm not sure what the question was. I just descended into a
I don't think there was really a question. It's more interesting to delve into the idea that everyone is going to learn differently, and understanding that and exploring and trying to maybe spending your time, rather than rote copying of different tutorials, doing a few and trying to understand what it is that works for you. Because I'm the same as you. I learn on the job always. That's always been my thing. If I'm working on like an image that is really complicated in some way, and I'm like, well, I feel like 3D would help me, that's when I start learning 3D. It's not like weeks before in preparation. It's like, no, I think this is the time to do it now. And it's stressful and scary a lot of the time because you have to learn new stuff with a deadline or whatever. But I'm exactly the same way. And the reason I wanted to talk about this a wee bit is because when I was an art student, pretty much throughout my career, even now a little bit, I was never comfortable with certain things. I was never a great figure drawer. I was never a great draftsman in general. And I think I was always scared that if I didn't learn Bridgman or Loomis or one of these people's techniques, I would never get it. But what ended up happening to me, as someone who's now done a ton of figure paintings and done, magic cards with characters and stuff like that, it's just time. It's just time. It's just doing the same things over time that will teach you that stuff. You can obviously study, as much as you want, and you should study, while you're working. It's great. But for me, it's not like I learned one simple trick to paint figures,
Doctors hate him.
Yeah, exactly, doctors don't hate me for any particular reason. it was just doing it for over a long time. The only other thing that ever helped me was, and it's something I talk about when I do our study sessions on Mondays and Fridays, is stopping. So to back up a little bit, as an anxious human being, a weird little anxious goblin, the idea of drawing a person is scary. The idea of drawing certain things is scary. As soon as I stopped thinking about things as being the thing they are, and instead just thought of them as like a series of shapes with light falling on them, that like completely changed the way I approached art. I think it was Feng Zhu said that in one of his videos. Feng Zhu of often useless bad advice, but sometimes very good advice, and that was really good advice. He talked about trying to stop thinking about a face as a face or a person as a person, and instead just focus on it being a bunch of shapes. And that doesn't mean necessarily drawing a cylinder and drawing a sphere or and going through this process. It's more just like for example, now if I draw a person, I don't start at the face. I don't start at the eyes. I usually start with like other bits, and I kind of build it up in a kind of abstract way. And that just works for me. It might not work for you, it might not work for someone else, but it's like learning to break that stuff down into just being a bunch of shapes, a bunch of lines and gestures. And if you want to trace, fucking trace. If you want to, whatever gets you the result you want in your head, I guess. That was a very rambly topic, but like...
No, I completely agree. Like, I remember listening to, oh God, I remember I used to listen to this ASMR person, but she was very kind of intelligent, and it all comes back to ASMR, to be perfectly honest. But she was saying about how she liked the writing of one person, but she found that her writing was much closer to this other person who maybe she necessarily wasn't as like enamored with, but like their process was much closer to hers. And so she kind of started focusing on what they were doing. And for me, I found like this one figure drawing video, and it matched the way that I tended to approach drawing. And that was useful for me, like way more useful. Like for me personally, I don't think in shape. And so I've watched not hundreds of hours, but in my heart, it felt like hundreds of hours of video tutorials of people talking very much like this with no intonation and very, very, very slowly. About like doing these big gestural shapes and like throwing it down like huge brushes. And whenever I do that, it looks like a 5-year-old's done it. Like none of the shapes are interesting. Nothing is dynamic about it. It's just a bunch of sad, misshapen rocks. And not even in like a nice kind of like a depth kind of perspective thing going on there. It just looks rubbish. But I think in line, and I felt bad about that for ages, but you know what, fuck that. But I found ways around that. Like I use the lasso tool now to like draw stuff, and then I'll make that shape, but I need the flow. Like I talk a lot with my hands, and also there's a lot of movement. And if I don't, I think with movement and I think with line, and me watching a bunch of tutorials about painting with big blocky shapes was utterly useless for me. That being said, I had to do it to know that. Yeah. Like I gave it a real solid shot, and then I was like, you know what, this process doesn't work with me. So yeah, I think it's okay to take something, thank it for its contribution, and then let it go. Yeah. Because some parts of your process just won't work with you, and there are going to be people who work in ways that are more useful. That I think it is really helpful to try and dig into what their process is and think about how they've created this image, rather than like, I don't know, like me crying over someone that does really big blocky textural environment paintings. I can't do that. That's not how I paint, and that's okay.
But trying it out is the key, right? Because you only know if you don't like that style if you try it. And I'm the same as you. I feel like over the years I've tried everything. Like I've tried Well, not everything, obviously. I still plenty to try and hate.
Yeah.
But like, you know.
Oh yeah. No part of me is ever going to do a hyper realistic gun. That's
No.
if there's anything that
Fuck that.
is as far away from me as is feasibly possible, it's making a hyper realistic AK-47.
Hyper-realistic
No,
gun
thank you.
is the place you will never tread. You will never go there. It's your elephant graveyard.
Yeah.
That is an AK-47. You must never go there. That's incredible. But I think in general there was a lot of extremely good advice in that segment, really, because trying stuff out and learning what you like is important, and also learning that it's okay not to do things the way that your favorite artist does it. You know, it's okay to download Greg Grotowski's painterly brushes and to play with them and to be like, this just doesn't work for me. That's fine.
Yeah.
At least you tried.
Yep.
At least you gave it a shot, and maybe you'll come back to it in like 2 years and it'll be comfortable then. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's okay
like,
to
oh my
flip between
God.
styles, you know?
Like, one thing I remember being told years ago was like, I used everything like a pencil. Like, I have always sucked at traditional media because my brain just is like, color goes here and it goes here like this. And so the idea of using these big brush strokes and actually using the medium of like brushes to get a certain amount of texture in, I just couldn't understand that. And so like all of these natural media brushes, I was just like,
That's so interesting.
Like and I'm getting better with it now, I think, because I've spent so long doing like gouache painting and I got a little bit into oil painting. She says, I was like, I'm gonna get into it. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna spend £100 on oil paints. I did one session and I haven't touched it since because I'm scared of the chemicals.
I knew where this was going. That's amazing.
But the minute that I did that, I would just like get up real close to like the National Gallery paintings and be like, you've done so much. Like, just look at that one bit of gold on that bit of like cloth. And that kind of switched a bit of my brain on to like the process for that.
Yeah. That's interesting, actually. Having to see it or have a connection with like the traditional media to actually care about the digital version of the traditional media.
I didn't get it, to be honest, and I still don't entirely get it.
Have you ever sculpted, like IRL, clay sculpted or whatever?
I've done like 2. Actually, would you like Anna's horrible story as like a kind of as like a companion to your horrible Sims story?
Oh my God, yes.
So I've done 2 sculptures. They were both for uni. One of them was like my interpretation of the War of the Worlds tripods that actually turned out really well, and I'm quite proud of it.
That's
just
cool.
As things go. The other one was in first year. We had to design a character for like an underwater theme. We had to paint it, and I was very pleased with it. And we had to build it in like Sculpey. And I'm not super experienced with that, but I was like, yeah, we're gonna do it. So I kind of like balled together some aluminium foil, and then I started building it over the top, and it was like this kind of floaty jellyfish woman with like a big jellyfish skirt, and she had like almost like a kind of crown of like those like long kind of conical horns. And she was just kind of very, very floaty, very pretty. But I made that, but I didn't bake it because I was busy, man. I was doing first year things. I was like going to the like rock club and then just having a small meltdown. And then locking myself in my room for like a week. But I had that done, and then it came to like the end of the year, and I was like, okay, I need to move out, and I still got like what is essentially this wet, sculpy, like still squishy model that's been like on my shelf for 4 months, and my dad was literally pulling into the parking area, and I was like, fuck, I can't take this home with me. I need to take this home with me, but and I can't bring myself to throw. I can't throw anything away. Like I can't throw art away. So I was like, okay, shit, I've got to high speed bake this. So I turn on the ovens, which are notoriously terrible in student halls, and I shove it in there. I close it, and then I'm like, cool, I've got a timer. I've got my timer. It turns out it was in Fahrenheit, and I put it on centigrade. So it was a full 100 degrees or something hotter than it should have been. So like I open it and the kitchen just floods with smoke. And it's like this horrible mutant burned model where like it looks creepy. Like it's kind of got these weird like blackened horns now. And like the ends of its like fin hands are completely like burned. But I'm like, I made this, I'm proud of it. I've done well. I'm gonna keep it. And I take it back home. And my family's quite religious, and I take it over my mum immediately. She's not usually this way about my art. She was like, I don't like that, Anna.
Burnt effigy.
It looks a bit evil. It looks a bit evil. So I am a bit offended by this. She's like, oh, this looks she's like, no, I don't like it. It looks demonic. And I'm just like, that's very rude to say about your daughter's treasured sculpture, mother. So after like a continued like thing of her being quite judgmental about it, and I'd like kind of put it on a shelf, and she was like, no, I don't like it. After enough comments, I was like, you know what, I've had enough of this. So I snuck into my parents' bedroom, and they had like these sliding door like wardrobes, and because it was like this foil base, it was kind of curved, and so like the shelves tipped forward slightly, and so I just placed it on one of the shelves and then just slid it shut and just waited. And then like my mum went up and just opened it, and I just had like it was only this, it wasn't heavy in any way. It wasn't like it was like a solid rock. It was very light. It just rolled forward like towards her. And she just appeared just like, Anna, I'm going to throw this out. I don't want it in the house. So the next thing I did was I put it in the fridge.
Oh my God. Yes. Trolling religious parents. This is incredible.
I'm a monster.
No, it's delightful. It's delicious.
Yeah, good. That was my story.
Does it still exist? Does the burnt effigy?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I didn't at that point. I got my joy out of it.
Yeah.
But it probably is kicking around somewhere in like the loft. But
that's incredible.
Yeah.
We should do this again, and we'll get you to bring it on the stream.
That'd be great.
Ask
like my really cursed. What I'll do is I'll put it like there, and then for each break it'll get slightly closer and closer until it's like here, and then the screen will just go black.
It'll replace your face like that. What was Goosebumps? Jeez, that took some work. That Goosebumps took.
Yeah.
Here's a question. Question number 4. Games. You like spooky games? Do you like spooky games?
I like the idea of them. So I love horror. I love it. And I think part of that is because I couldn't deal with it as like up till the age of maybe like 23, 24. And something in my brain was just like, yes, excellent. But I think because I have a very short attention span, horror is one of the things that can keep me kind of like locked in just because of the sheer level of fear.
Yep.
But for games, I love them, but I can't play them. Petrified. Absolutely petrified. I've got like another hilarious story. I think it's hilarious, but I realise I'm chatting a lot of shit. We're not talking about art.
That's the whole point of this.
That's true.
It's the nice friend show. You can do whatever you can talk about whatever you want. Seriously.
Yeah. I think I was just traumatized by I had this educational Star Wars game called Star Wars Droid Works, and it was kind of Portal-esque. You had to build a robot, a droid, and it had to like basically perform. Like it had to infiltrate a base. It had to have certain things that it needed to be able to do. Like it needed a certain amount of battery life or like a grabbing arm or something. And you had this sarcastic AI that would kind of make fun of you while you were doing it, like as a voiceover.
Is this like Star Wars Zumbinis? Like Did you play Zombinis ever?
No, I didn't.
Okay, never mind.
No,
Continue.
But basically, it was really, really good, and I loved it. But halfway through, I think they must have been like, okay, shit, we need more content. So what they did was they just duplicated all of the levels, but they added an assassin droid into it. And the assassin droid, you didn't know where it was. You didn't know like when it would appear. There was no way of tracking it. But all that you could kind of tell where it was from was like just this horrible grating sound of it threatening you from different directions, like getting closer. And the minute that you saw it, like it would chase you. You could not defend yourself. All you could do was run away. And if it caught you, it would just kill you. Like the screen would just flash red or whatever, and you die. Which is the exact same gameplay mechanics as Amnesia: The Dark Descent. And I was petrified. I was like 8, and I'd just be there on the computer, and I just hear like the grinding metal like voice of it being like, I can hear you. And I just pause it, and I'd be like, nope. Can't do it anymore. And that is my extent of horror games.
That's wonderful. That's my favorite kind of horror game. I like a horror where you can't do anything. And Amnesia, the games they did before that, I guess, kind of started that. The Penumbra series they did before Amnesia. But like that idea of being completely defenseless is wonderful. Have you played Alien Isolation out of interest?
No, I've watched people play it. I love the world building and the not the adverts, but like the posters and stuff in that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it for all its artistic worth and all of the scares, but I'm too much of a coward.
It's spooky.
Yeah.
That's fair. We've been playing a lot of Phasmophobia on the stream of late.
Oh, I've heard about that. I don't know a lot about it, but I've heard it's petrifying, like absolutely petrifying.
It's a very good VR game. Do you have a VR headset still, out of interest?
I don't know. That's the thing. Like I wouldn't be able. I don't want it. I would be so scared. I would be so scared. I just don't like it. Don't like it at all.
I talked about. I played Alien Isolation in VR one time, and I remember it was a really seminal moment for me because I'm a huge Alien fan. Like Alien is one of my favorite films of all time. I love horror. I like horror that doesn't give too much away. So Alien was like the perfect movie in a lot of ways, you know. Yeah. Before they started expanding the universe and explaining everything, because that immediately ruins any fiction. But Alien Isolation is great because, like you were saying, they completely capture the sort of retro future aesthetic, you know, that kind of cassette decks and like chunky buttons that you have to press and everything feels good.
Yeah.
You're probably like me, like the feeling of buttons and stuff is very appealing.
And dials.
That's why I have this flight stick. Can I get it in the stream?
Oh, have you got one of those like launch pad things?
Look at this.
Everything is very
metal and it clicks and it feels good. And I just...
Yeah.
Pure porn. So the game captures that, which is wonderful. But in VR, it was the first time I'd ever got a concept of how big the alien was, which sounds really stupid because like you're like, alien, it's a big thing. It's a big old slavery spooky boy. But fuck me, like if you haven't ever used VR, you will have no concept of this. But like VR makes you feel like you are the correct size in the environment, so like a room feels like a room. And when an 8 foot tall, like biomechanical creature drops from the roof and unfolds in front of you, and you're just like, oh, it's incredible.
It's not okay. It's not okay.
Not okay, but it's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that element of VR. In that I remember I was playing one VR game and it was like Bullet Train, I think, and it was the kind of one that like tracks your position in a room. And an annoying thing that I think was the case with I think older VR games, I don't know so much now, but like they would generally be set up for like the average male height. And which is one of those kind of like I guess kind of the unintentional tech sexism that tends to crop up quite a lot. And you see that just in general with tech, like when they don't like recognize people of color and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it had like the interesting, actually, it like the kind of side effect of like I went forward because you basically hop to different locations, and it was this very physical moment where I had like my gun, but I didn't like shooting anyone, so I just kind of like to bludgeon people with it. So I'd like hop to a new location, I'd just be like, and then like the next one, but I went to the next spot, and there was a enemy just over a wall, but because I was too short, I was like kind of underneath it, so I had to like get up on my tiptoes and reach over the wall like in VR just to smack this guy over the head with my gun, which was very satisfying.
That's amazing.
So
to be honest.
yeah, which I enjoyed that a lot. So
let us call the question queen. She is known by some as Samantha. I'm going to call her Paul from the future here, or the past. I don't really understand how this works. We tried to do a segment here which didn't really work very well. So I've had to clip it up a bit. Basically, I thought it'd be fun to call a friend of ours to ask some questions that had come up in chat, friend Samantha, which is a cool idea in theory, except because of the way we had OBS set up, she couldn't hear Anna. Anna couldn't hear her. I had to relay to one of to each of them what was happening, and of course the chat was also miles behind in the stream. So this is an absolute mess. I clipped out the first question because there's a lot of people talking over each other, and I'll do my best to clean this part up because there are some really funny answers. So, all right, Anna. Samantha's question is: what plant would you recommend for a new plant parent?
I love a peace lily. However, if you have a cat or a pet, do not get a peace lily because they are toxic. Oh. But peace lilies are great because they are a hot fuzz joke. And I love hot fuzz. And they are also very melodramatic. And so when you need to water them, they just basically collapse on themselves. They're like, ugh, and they're really like limp and pathetic looking. But you just chuck a pint of water in there, and they're way back to normal, and it's fine. And they're just very hardy. They just keep going. I've had like one for nearly like 2.5, 3 years now, and I love it. And it's not died. And yeah, and sometimes it'll bloom a little flower. My one's blooming at the moment, and just kind of spits pollen out randomly. But I don't get hay fever anymore, and I think it's because I've just basically been saturated with peace lily pollen. So that's my recommendation.
Just perpetually coated in pollen. Question 2. Where did you get your amazing glasses?
These are, I mean, historically, I tend to get complimented on my glasses quite a lot. They are almost exclusively from the discount men's section of Specsavers. Nice. So these were on sale. I think the other pair that I have, the pair that I think I was kind of like recognized for were like these kind of octagonal silver ones. Similarly, like £39 from Specsavers. It's nothing fancy, really. Just me falling into Specsavers and just being like, that one.
That works.
Need to see things.
That works. Yeah. That's like natural style, right? Knowing how to go into any shop and find something that works. I like that.
I don't know. I've chosen some weird ass glasses before.
Question 3. Anna, if you could be any biscuit, what biscuit would you be?
Ooh.
And why?
Like maybe like one of those ginger nut, like cream filled ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I love a ginger nut.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a little bit of kick. It's sweet, but not too sweet. It's got a crunch, but it's real good if you dip it in tea. Mm-hmm. But the little bit of like the sandwich element, I think, elevates it.
Mm-hmm.
And makes it a little bit more of a treat. And you get technically 2 biscuits in one, so just a little bit more. It's extra.
It's like ultimately an Oreo, but better, really, because Oreos are kind of shit. Like,
yeah, and then I'm just a
Question 4. Okay, Anna, what book or piece of media do you want to grab people in the street and scream at them and make them read / ingest?
Ooh.
Chaos is the theme of my stream, so it works.
I mean, to be fair, probably it's not a book, it's a game. I'm obsessed with the game Control by Remedy.
Nice, yeah.
I am. Oh my god, it's so good. Like the use of like the brutalist architecture and the way that they have like real strong composition is phenomenal. Like
Love it.
Like they have like the hiss uses all of this really interesting VFX that I've never really seen in games before. In terms of the actual gameplay, like flying around and like manipulating the world feels incredible. When you get like the there's a specific like outfit that you can get through doing this mirror battle kind of thing. All of the quests, even the side quests, are just weird and cool and interesting, and play around with all of these like visual tricks. Everything is just perfectly wrapped up in this like surreal kind of world building like aspect that I find just endlessly funny in terms of all of the like the bureaucracy around all of these ridiculous like supernatural objects, and the way that you discover the story through that, and like all of these ridiculous moments where like someone's just got to sit there and watch a fridge, otherwise like it'll like do something weird. Just it's perfect. It's like is it the SCP Foundation?
Yeah.
It's that. And it's creepy but funny and cool and powerful and beautifully composed and just, oh, it's so good.
That's such a good
So
choice.
good.
That's such a good choice.
Yeah.
Question 5. Sam says that she loves your work and she has a couple of your pins ordered. She's very excited. Is there anyone else whose work you love and would like to shine a light on while you're here?
Oh, it's called A Long Journey to an Uncertain End.
Well, I've heard of this. Long Journey to an Uncertain End.
I am very excited about it. It's like a super queer, super inclusive game that has just kind of been announced, and it's like a narrative management space opera, and I'm very excited about that. So if you wanted to wishlist that, that is always a lovely shout. And then in terms of some art, there's been like a lot of really cool redraws going on recently, and I absolutely love these Ghibli redraws that have been going on.
Oh, lovely.
So, yeah.
So the last 2 links were A Long Journey to an Uncertain End, which is a game. It's on Steam. And the last one was twitter.com/pankdabbles, which is an incredible name. And I'm not going to read out that link, but go to their work and look at it and find a thing. Go on a treasure hunt. You'll find it. Question 6. She says, that she had the great privilege of seeing you on a catwalk at an Industry Workshops event. If you could choose one song to be your entrance song for the rest of your life, every time you walk into a room, what would it be?
Oh no, this is such a good question. Because it needs to be punchy. I think about this kind of thing like way too much. Like what song is like the ultimate distillation of who I want to be? I think, I think it might be Make Me Feel by Janelle Monáe.
Okay. That works.
Bisexual anthem.
Yeah.
Super like, you can dance to it, but it's kind of like punchy in places. And I can see myself just kind of like coming in with like the clicks and that kind of thing. I love it so much that I wanted fan art of it. I don't do fan art very often.
I wonder if I could do that for my outro track. That feels like a choice that I could do. I love that.
The music video is so good. So probably that. Yeah, that's
It's a fucking good answer. Well, on that note, I feel like we should end today's weird podcast escapades. Thank you so much for joining me for the last, I don't know how long this has been, 2 hours, 3 hours? I have no idea.
It's been a while.
Quite frankly.
It's been great. Time is no meaning anyway, so
Exactly,
we're just
it's
vibing.
overrated. Do you want to plug anything before you go? That's a question, a classic question.
I mean, I can shamelessly plug my Kickstarter again.
Please do.
I love enamel pins. If you want tarot themed enamel pins that you can wear as lapel pins on a suit or however you want to, I'm currently running a Kickstarter. You're guaranteed to get them given that it's already funded by quite a bit, and there's a bunch of different color options as well, with more things on the way. So if you're interested in that, then please go ahead. And I'm also on Twitter quite a lot. That's probably the best place to find me. If you want to see my work and yelling and that kind of thing.
What be your Twitter? What is your Twitter? Can you say?
My Twitter is my name. It is Anna Hollinrake. And it's in chat. So that, thank you so much. Just so on it, just so unbelievably on it. I say one thing, so bam, Sam's already just it's all there. So pins, Twitter, that's what's going on with me. So do you have anything to plug?
Fuck no, this is my stupid podcast. I don't have to plug anything. I can plug this podcast.
Yeah, that's true. I feel rude. I'm like, oh no, you've been asking all the questions. Like, I just
that's literally my job here. It's been honestly wonderful to sit down and chat with you. Anna's one of my favorite artists. This has been super fun. Do check out her work. There'll be links, obviously, on the description for the SoundCloud update, whatever the fuck I say. But thank you so much for coming. Thank you for listening to our first episode. It will go down in history.
Yeah. It's a thing. It's a whole thing. It's very exciting. You need to send me the intro.
I will. I'll show you all the terrible videos afterwards.
Good.
Thank you so much. There'll be another episode next week. Guests will be revealed shortly on Twitter in a few days. But thank you again, Anna. You're fucking wonderful. And have a great night.
Bye.
Peace. Goodbye. Be well.